What up, y'all? A special episode. Special episode, Candid Conversations. Let's go. Oh, hold on. We really got somebody who does this for real. All right. Chris really raps. He really does spoken word. Welcome, y'all. Candid, 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 candid. All right. What are we? What's this? Thursday? Happy Thursday, everybody. This is a special pop-up Candid Conversations, the interview series, because I wanted to have a chance to chat with one of the gentlemen who's one of the Candid Conversations facilitators, who we weren't able to chat last week or the week before. So he so graciously agreed to come through today, like last minute, he said yes. I also wanted to take an opportunity for us to talk about the Candid Conversations event that just happened this past Saturday, October 29th in Dallas, Texas. And y'all, it was amazing. It was amazing. And I can't say it just based on me. I'm saying it based on feedback that I've gotten from men. I'm saying it based on messages that I've been getting. I'm saying it based on that nobody left. Nobody wanted to leave, even when it was over. And so with that, y'all, join me in welcoming. This is Chris Edwards. So Chris and I are family. Okay. So he's cousins with my sister-in-law. That means we family. And so that's awesome. Chris is a mentor. He's a husband. He's a father of 5 boys. He is a speaker. He just has a heart for community and ministry and so much more. He was in the building like as a security and bouncer, checking people in at Candid Conversations. So Chris, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you want, feel free to introduce yourself with whatever you'd like to say.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Dr. G. Thank you. You introduced me pretty well. Chris Edwards. I am all those things you mentioned: husband, father, communicator, all of that jazz, minister, all of it. I have a gift with words and people, and I just merge those two together in just about anything I do. So, yep.
You do. You do have a gift with words and people, but at the end of Candid Conversations, I don't know if that gift was as evident as you told me.
Gosh.
As you were giving me this most amazing words and feedback. And Chris, you said, listen, I speak for a living, but I'm stuttering and I'm rambling. And so, Chris, can you just talk a little bit about what you were sharing with me about the experience? How was it for you? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, as Dr. G said, I was at a loss for words because of the nature of Candid Conversations. It is a men's event. Dr. G, as a woman, did this event. So that doesn't mean anything inherently, but you could assume that there might be certain challenges in putting on an event, for all men. When I tell you guys, everything was how it needed to be. She had all of us engaged, not just in listening to what she had to say and internalizing it. She had all these grown men dancing, singing, talking about their lives, their situations, having some honest conversations, and talking about things that, at least historically, we don't see talked about, at least in the most public settings when it comes to our mental health and our relationships and whatever the biggest struggles are of that day. Everything down to the food. I mean, look, y'all, it was loaded baked potatoes, which is one of my favorite. One of my favorite that you can set up yourself, plenty of meat, chopped up real well, barbecue sauce there, chives, sour cream, all of the stuff that you need, it was right there. And I know that depending on who's listening, that might not sound like a big deal, but that matters a lot for the type of vibe you're going to get for like a men's thing, the type of food that we might want when we're hanging out. There were a bunch of people who hung around. When I say a bunch, I mean pretty much everybody. And there was not one TV playing a game. There was ESPN wasn't on. All the quintessential things that you think we need to kind of gather and stay around. No, it was just great conversation, great connection and networking, amazing food. I talked about the sliders. Maybe I'm just hungry, but no, it's legit. The sliders So the sliders, I'm gonna give this. The sliders were open. The sliders were open, and I was having a long conversation with a gentleman there. And I got there, and of course the bread, right? You know, the bread has been exposed to all the oxygen. So now it's getting a little hard. So I said, I'm gonna get one anyway, and I'm gonna just see. I'll at least see what the patty tastes like. Y'all, the patty was seasoned so well. I didn't eat the bread, but I ate the patty. I didn't eat the bread, but I ate the patty. It had been out there for a while. I'm telling y'all, the food was on point, the content was on point. The people who Dr. G brought in, they all had something of huge significance to bring, from the breathing to the kind of not grief counseling, but access to grief counseling. Like just that intro to that conversation of grief had me thinking about some things that I had faced that I might not have fully dealt with in my own life, to the brotherhood opportunity of networking that group of men that one of the therapists there had for me. And it's just all of it was so good, and the conversations were truly candid. They were open. The men were open. We talked about what was actually happening, and the environment did not feel like you were going to simply be vulnerable and exposed to possible darts. It felt like you could be vulnerable and truly be in a safe space, and that safe space was real. Like it wasn't just a facade. You felt that so much so that at the end, all the men were still there, talking, having good conversation. If we didn't want to be there, we wouldn't have been there. Right. And yeah, very, 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 very good. If you get an opportunity to go to the next one, to all my dudes out there, you should go. It will bless you beyond what you pay for it. I'm telling you. Yeah. Yep.
You better get the food rundown. Come on.
Look.
But it was that was intentional. I appreciated you noticed all that stuff. Like you noticed the food, you were like in your music, even every single thing was so intentional. Everything from even like you just said, even bringing in a few people, talk briefly about grief and counseling. It wasn't long, right? It wasn't a full session, but it was just, that's something that I know people deal with, but I know that men in different ways don't get permission to, or I don't know how to start, or you don't have to say it. Let me bring somebody in to say it. The breath work. So all of it so intentional. Yeah. You and the other 9 gentlemen who were not just the facilitators, you all welcomed the gentleman in. Like I love that Hilton stood behind you to greet the dudes as they walked in. That was fantastic. Like, listen, maybe you haven't been dapped up or hugged in a minute. Hilton, who a big dude,
dude.
What's up, bro? Like what? And just all of it. So Dr. Mark is in here. He said, I attempted to thieve all the secret sauce. Come on, Dr. Mark, because I know your heart that you want to do so many things for men. So Chris, let me ask you this. Yeah. Did you get a chance to send the text message question to anybody about your strength or superpower? If so, what did you hear back?
I did. And one that I got back, and I really appreciated it, and it caught me off guard. A friend of mine said that one of the strengths that I had and the thing that I've done for him, and at least how I've impacted him, was when I do my spoken word, like when I rap and do all of that. I didn't know how much of an impact. I thought he would have said something else. But he said that, and I was like, wow. And it caused me to just sit in that for a minute and just say, okay, like I know that when I have a gift with words, I know it has an impact, but you can pick anything. I mean, you can say anything, and that was something that he picked, and it just made me give more honor to that gift and appreciate it more. It meant something. It was so unexpected. It was unexpected, and it's something that I'll continue to think about from here on out. I got some others from a family member who said, when I showed up at this place, like that helped him. And this is somebody that I look up to. And so to know that my presence being there meant something is huge. Yeah, that was a great exercise that I mean, I don't know if you're telling everybody, what it is,
Mm-mm.
but
They
it
can't.
was,
No, they
they
can't.
can't,
No, we
yeah,
can tell
they
them.
gotta
We can
come.
tell them because even when we do it again at the next one, right? We can ask a different person. So y'all, if you want to join, the activity
Yes.
is texting someone or a few people in your life and asking them what they believe your strength is, what they believe your superpower is, and how you've helped them. And it means something because, like you said, "Oh, I didn't think he was going to say that about me." And I feel like we're waiting to give people their flowers. I do. And the beautiful thing is, and I mentioned this, one of my family members, I gave him that assignment, and the most detailed answers he got back were from men. Like they were so
Mm,
long. And I remember thinking, I feel like these gentlemen are waiting to share words of encouragement and how I see you,
yeah.
and for various
Yeah.
reasons aren't, but it doesn't take a lot to do it. Like
Yeah.
anytime I do things, like, at the end of Candid Conversation, I encourage people to hug. And I say, when you feel like letting go, hug another 3 seconds. That is never difficult to do. I truly
Mm,
feel like it's almost like, what I can say was Dr. G made us do it. Or I can
yeah.
say,
It gives
because you
permission.
given permission. Like it's a
Yeah.
desire, but also I know just various entities, society, the church, blah, 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 don't allow y'all to embrace the additional sides of manhood and the additional
Yeah.
sides of who you are. And so that's why the dancing happened. I know you said another one, like, are these men about to dance? Did.
And look, I gotta say, this is credit to Dr. G. You know that when you tell anybody to dance, if they're not dancers, if they don't do that naturally, the first thought is, well, I don't know what to do. Dr. G gave steps. It was like 3, 4 different steps. And it was simple, just do these steps. And I danced and stuff like that. So I wasn't tripping about it, but I was definitely concerned about others, especially who were, my elders,
Yeah.
who might not do, what was it, bachata or
You better pronounce it
merengue?
with that merengue.
Yeah, yeah. It was merengue. And it's like you don't just, these gentlemen are not doing merengue. They're not that's not their thing, but you broke it down in steps, which just made that runway that much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Skill.
Yeah.
Skill. If you
Thank
didn't
you
know,
so much.
Dr. G
Somebody else
got the
mentioned,
skills.
what'd you say?
If you didn't know, Dr. G got the skills.
I'm grateful for the skills. I'm grateful to use the skills for this. And somebody else mentioned that they were like, you broke that down so much where even if we didn't want to dance, we didn't have a choice.
Yep.
Because and I understand that, and bringing people into that space. So for you, Chris, what did being in a space mean for you? Because you are a speaker and a mentor and do so many things where you are a leader, and you were still a leader, right? Everybody in there is a leader, but that was a space for you. Like you didn't lead a
Yeah.
session. I didn't, ask you to do that. So what was it like for you to be in that space?
It was it was it was it was good because it was the reverse.
Mhm.
So that first session where we had to face another man. And if you guys know anything about the interaction between men with other men and women with other women, they say women connect face to face, men connect shoulder to shoulder doing something. And it's not to say that's not true, but Dr. G had us engaging another man face to face. It wasn't weird. It wasn't, you didn't feel like too awkward. Of course, the initial turn to look at each other in the face has this, it has its effects, but um, everybody in there was willing to, have these conversations. And it gave me space to talk about the challenges that I have, the things that I'm going through. You broke it down to have one person listening, one person speaking. And that was for about, I don't know, 10 minutes apiece, felt like. Um, and that was very beneficial for me because normally I'm the one who is doing the listening
Mhm.
or the guidance, and this was a space for me to just be heard,
Yeah.
um, on a personal tip, not me just speaking, because I'm doing a
Right.
workshop or something like that. It was on a personal tip, and just that space. They didn't have to offer any advice. They didn't have to give any guidance or anything like that. It was them listening and being able to use active listening, repeat back to me what they were hearing, but then also give a little bit more, kind of contextualize it from their own perspective, which shows that they were digesting it and they felt where I was coming from and just being heard. And you gave this quote, and it's funny, right when you said it, I was thinking it in the session, that many people process being heard in that time as love.
Yeah.
And I think that most of us do. I know that I do. Like, it comes off that way because I'm being cared for in one way or another, because somebody's hearing me. And that's the biggest thing that I got from those moments. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate the details you shared and that you all did. Like, even so, Dante, who gave the welcome, said, gentlemen, you may be a little uncomfortable, but lean into it. So yeah, that initial turnaround, face him, gentlemen. But as you probably also could tell in my secret sauce is how I maneuvered us into that space. Very intentional, not just out there. We dancing out the gate. No, it's a finesse to it. Because if I am being used to cultivate a space for men to be safe and to share and share authentically, then we have to kind of ease into that. And that's safe. And so I appreciate you saying that. I remember, a few men mentioned that, just the power of somebody summarizing what they said in a different way. Like, oh my gosh, I feel like I was maybe scatterbrained, and they said, and it didn't make it seem that it was so different. And also, I think that was a big deal because, there is the idea that men are fixers, right? Like, there's a problem, you want to fix it immediately, as opposed to, you can still fix it, but what if you just listened and then reflected back, and then you can offer advice at the end? And so I appreciated how much everybody leaned into it. And I even added more time to that activity because you normally can hear things that get a little quiet. I'm like, oh, it's not getting quiet. Oh, right. Oh, they still going. But I just wondered, I was like, how often do these men get to do this? Where you get to be heard, or you get to just pour back in, not on, I'm the expert, just, man, here's what I'm hearing. And I was like, all right, then we're going to be a little bit later because they are still talking. And I think that is awesome. What do you think the dynamic of having a woman in the space did? Like, what did you think? Like, you know what, you curated it, but here's what I think it did for you to be in the space with us.
I think... Honestly, I think it just impressed me. That was what it was for me, because it's not just that you weren't just in the space and just doing something blindly or aimlessly. You were intentional about what you were saying and what you were doing, and it was effective. But I'm trying to see how I want to say this. Dr. G, like, you're not a distraction. Like, you're not a distraction. And I say that to say someone else in that position might be a distraction. Like, they might not know how to navigate that space to... And this is just me speaking from a male's perspective. Like, it's my own perspective, but just, I'm a male, so you know how to navigate that space to where everyone in the room can get what they came there to get, and it not be shifted in this way or that way. And look, I don't know how many of the dudes in there are single. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how many of them was like, oh, look at Dr. G, I see her up there. But you don't have... You have such a, I don't even know what to call it, but you carry yourself in such a way, and such, not just an authority. I don't know. You gifted. I'll just say you gifted. You're able to navigate that room to where there was no guy, even if they were single in there, who could be like, well, I just want to talk to Dr. G after this. And the reality is, you have a room full of men. And Dr. G, me and LaFay were talking about this. You're a pretty woman, so it's not like you up there and you take care of yourself well. You get up there, you have prepared for this, and God has blessed you to look how you look. It could easily be that some men in there could be distracted, but I don't know. You have a gift to where that's not the case. I'm looking around the room, and everybody just wants to participate in the moment, and I know that I would assume that a lot of men will understand what I'm talking about, and probably some women too. I don't know if I'm making sense,
Mhm.
but that's a real dynamic to this type of environment. You just don't see that, and you're not like 82. Yeah, if you were 82, then it would be no need for me to make that comment. But you're not that. So to have the wisdom and the poise and the character and the authority and the um, you don't have just the surface level stuff to get you in the room. You have the fullness of it. So you've gathered people in, but then you have the actual knowledge and experience to impact those lives once you got them in.
Mm.
And it's a different dynamic with such a gender imbalance. That's what it meant for me. I was just sitting back as a speaker. I'm like, this is it's crazy. It really is crazy. You don't yeah. I'll just say that. But I was telling LaFay that's my wife, y'all. My wife is LaFay. I was telling her like, how do you do that? Like that's not a small thing by far. I'm not sure if that is the answer everybody was looking for, but that was the thing that stood out to me. It impressed me because not everybody can do that.
Mm.
So, and I
Thank
do
you.
have a question for you. I'm not
Please.
gonna when you're
Come on.
ready for it. Okay.
First of all, shout out to LaFay. Shout out.
Yes. Shout
And
out to my boo.
up to your boo. Y'all are just your whole family is beautiful and
Oh, thank you.
amazing. The love y'all have for each other publicly and all of that is just wonderful. And it's not fake, it's not manufactured, it's not for the
Nope.
gram. It is
Nope.
genuine. And that is beautiful. And so everything you just shared, in a sense, I recognize that. I do.
Yeah.
And I've had people say, well, what if men come who because they saw your picture or something like that? I said, then let them come.
Yeah.
I said, then let them come. That's fine because I said I know what the experience is going to be, and I know that you're probably a little messed up for the first couple minutes of meeting or seeing me if you've never met me. So I know that it's a little bit of like, what? Huh? Are we late? What? And so yes, so I did have a gentleman say, those gentlemen were leaning in, listening to you. Like, what? And I said, I know. And I'm honored by that because I hope that y'all
Yeah.
knew that I was there for you. And there was no, and I think just intentional, energetic wise, like I needed to be there. Yes, I'm a woman. And yes, some people may think I'm aesthetically pleasing, but it's also, let me also make sure my energy is in a place that is
Yeah.
open and curating a safe space for everyone. So it's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And actually, so George, Lieutenant Colonel, who
Mhm.
introduced me, been friends for years, and so it's me, him, and a couple other guys. And I talked to him the other day, and I said, it's what I said something like y'all made it hard for other like dudes to talk to me because y'all were such great friends. And he was like, Kristen, it was easy to be friends with you because you genuinely like checked in on us. And somebody else said to me, you probably didn't bring a different energy. And this is about me. I'm not talking about anybody else because
Mhm.
I've not been able to identify that why until maybe over the last couple of months and just hearing other men in my life just kind of explaining, yeah, that's the uniqueness that you bring to spaces you're in. And so I appreciate you sharing that as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned actually something related to the question that I was gonna ask. Like you did this for men, and so you can't do something like this for men, at least the way you did it, without having without recognizing a huge amount of value that men add to the world. So, what would you say uh, gives you, or maybe it's a person that conveyed how much men mean to the point where you would put on something like this, you would think about us in this way, and take your knowledge and your expertise and apply it in a way that really changed and is changing men's lives. Like, where did you get that value that you put on us, or that you see in men?
Mm. Oh, I love that question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you in phases. Like it's been phases where one in high school, I had 4 or 5 really good male friends and we were friends. Now I'm not pretending in friendship, somebody may like another person, but nothing ever like it was friendship.
Yeah.
When right out of college, I was youth minister at my church or asked to have this youth program. Well, the majority of the youth at the church were boys. So that means the majority of my youth were boys. And I'll never forget this. I got a call from the Cedar Hill football coach. He called me one day and he said, is this Kristen? I said, it is. And I'm like 22, 23. And I said, yes. He said, so two of my players say that they're in your program, blah, 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 blah. I said, yeah, they are. He said, okay. They also have requested to skip watching video the day after a game to come to your program. Is your program every Saturday? I said, it is. He said, I have never in the history of being a football coach had players ask if they could skip watching video to go to church. He
Wow.
said, what are y'all doing? I said, well, we have breakfast and there's a lesson and we connect and we play a game. And then I'm like, they're working for 3 hours. And he just said something like, I don't know you, but keep doing what you're doing because that's never happened. I said,
Wow.
okay. I remember the young men in my program respected me so much. Like I'm really big on like, pss, pss, don't do that to women. Pss, pss, don't do that. They're not
Yeah.
an animal. And so I remember I told my young men, if you see someone you want to talk to, I'm not going to mess up your game, son. I'll help you with your game, but don't do that. And so we were
Yeah.
out at the Meyerson and one of my young men did that to a girl. How about all the guys looked at me? It was him. Y'all just don't tell
Mm.
on. So he came to me and I said, here's what I need you to do. Go to her and apologize. Introduce yourself. So he goes up and then he looks at me talking about, I'm like, don't look at me. He's talking to her. And so I started just connecting with my young men. My dissertation was on Black men's school completion and dropout. And the reason I did that was because, okay, the majority of my youth are boys. All these boys have graduated from high school and they're doing well. What's the difference? Why is it that they are seemingly successful? And like, I wanted to find out that factor. Go a couple more years. I was doing some work for an organization in Dallas for women. Their director called me and said, do you do anything for men? I said, yeah, I do. Well, we have this event. Would you do it? So they called it the Empowerment Hour for Men, hosted by me. And this is like 2014. And it was packed. They said, we've never had an event with this many people. It was packed. I knew it was one of three reasons. Reason one, free food. Reason two, my picture was on the flyer. I know. Reason three, they wanted to see what a woman was going to tell them about being a man. I knew that.
Mm.
So as soon as the event started, I just said, gentlemen, I'm so grateful and excited to be here. I cannot tell you how to be a man. I will not ever try to do that. But what I can do is affirm you and see you and hear you and remind you that you are still worthy of so much.
Mm.
And so the men did not touch the
Wow.
food for 2 hours. They're talking. I basically did a Candid Conversations for them. Then they said, can you come back and work with us every month? So I worked with this group of men every month for 2 years. Nobody really knew it. And they were waiting for, are we going to dance next time? Are we going? And so I'm working with them. Then I get an email from that organization that said, the men have voted and they would like you to be their Father's Day speaker. Huh?
Wow.
Wait, what?
Wow.
They want you to be their speaker for Father's Day. And it was 100 or 200 men. And I just remember being like, I want to honor them. And I want to encourage the men who maybe weren't in the lives of their children and tell them that they still need you. And if you have made a mistake, apologize. And it just has continued. I was invited to be the first woman to speak to a group of Black football players at a university. They never invited women. I was the first woman. And I was there, had the men dancing. Within a week, football players are coming to my office to say, hey, Dr. G, can I talk to you? I'm not doing so good. So it is one of those things that is just organically happened from men who are friends of mine to people who will say, men, men don't talk. I said, oh, yes, they do. When they feel safe and not judged, y'all don't shut up. Okay. Like, no. And it just has continued. And so I think I was doing work called Cozy Convos for women. And they were events similar to Candid Conversations. And the Lord just put on my heart, what if you did one of these for men? Because I had been doing expos, co-hosting expos for girls first and then boys. And I was like, well, what if I did this for men? I contacted the men 6 years ago. All of them were like, what do you need us to do? Yes, 2 men wound up in tears on the phone with me because they said, you don't understand how much we need this. You don't understand. And so I know that was a longer answer to the question, but it's not a
No,
one.
that's
Like
perfect.
that is literally what has happened where male clients and friends will say, I've never shared with you what I shared. And so I do recognize that I have a gift for people to share, or men to share in particular. And the Lord said, bring it back. I wasn't doing this for 6 years. And so about a year ago, he was like, you're going to bring back Candid Conversations.
Wow.
Okay. And so I'm open to where we're going to take it and what's next. But yeah, so that's what got it started. And I'll give you this. I also see hurt and brokenness more than other people might. I do recognize that I have an ability to look at somebody, like look in their eyes, and maybe even look at a picture, and I can tell when someone is hurt. And I just started noticing, wow, a lot of men I know are hurting, and they're trying to cover it up, but they're not really doing
Yeah.
a good job. And there was a gentleman who came to a Candid Conversations 6 years ago, and I could tell he wasn't good. And I said, how about this? What if you don't facilitate anything today? Just let this be. And let me do, so back then I was a therapist. I said, let me do a walking session for you. Let's just do a walking session to help you out. And we got together, and he said, you are the first person to see that I'm not good. He said, I've been saying it to people, but I don't know if people believe me. And that's been that thing behind the scenes with a lot of men. And
Yeah.
we're just continuing the work.
Wow. Well, thank you for, well, one, being obedient to the Lord, but also, I don't know, it's just a privilege to be on the receiving end of that, and to be a part of an event like that, because it truly is the work that matters, especially in a time like this. From my own perspective, it's the work that matters. I can see why God had you bring it back, because it's needed right now. And I heard this quote that's just interesting. I heard it today, and it says that a broken heart is an open heart. And there's a lot of people who are going through stuff. A lot of men, we know the suicide rates are a lot higher right now. And I think that spaces like this allow for that openness to be dealt with well, and stewarded well. So thank you.
Thank you for that question. That was yay.
Yeah.
Share that. Good to see you, Dr. Mark. Oh, and Dr. Mark, I'm gonna holler at you because yes, I'm gonna help you do your thing. So Dr. Mark, if you remember, was the gentleman that I honored
Yeah.
with
We were in the
what he
group
did.
together.
Yeah. Oh, well, there it is. And so he is, his heart just, he wants to help men. He wants to help Black men.
Yeah.
And Dr. Mark, I know he has a patient to see, but thank you to infinity, Dr. G. I got you, Dr. Mark. I'm gonna help you with that because I know your heart to help in this space. And so, Chris, two more things. I chatted with one of the guys yesterday, and he told me something that just made my heart smile so much. So I'm excited to get with all y'all, the facilitators, on Monday, just to debrief and hear mainly about what happened in y'all's, not details, but just what happened in y'all small groups. Anyway, one gentleman, he said that in his small group, he shared something. Well, one gentleman shared something, and he asked a follow-up question that allowed one gentleman to tear up. He started tearing up, and he said, eventually, I think all of us in some way in our group started tearing up. And then a mentor-mentee relationship has started. They went and had a meal the other day, and the gentleman said, would you be my mentor? I said, first of all,
Wow.
the fact that you were a safe space for him, and the boldness
Yeah.
and courage for him to say, will you be my mentor? That's a big deal. You said this to me at the event, and somebody else said this. They said, you understand that this is going to change lives, because there's going to be relationships developed from this. People are going to build like friendships and business relationships. People are going to be better husbands. There were a couple men who were there that wives said, you're going to go to this. I'm like, y'all here because your wife said come? Yes. And I appreciate that, because I know when you all are good for you first, that trickles down to families and communities and generations. And so that's one I heard. I got another message from someone, and he said that was the most powerful experience I've ever been to for men. And I was on the verge of tears multiple times. And so I don't take any of this for granted. Or for men to say, I'm just glad I came. Like whatever your takeaway is, like I was just in the building. My brother, so your dude, Jason's like, I'm getting my retreat ticket this week. Come on through, son. So I'm excited. And speaking of retreat, I'm not even fully advertising it yet, but I'll mention it. I am, this, I'm hosting a retreat called Candid Conversations for Men retreat on the beach, June 22nd through June 25th. I'm opening up registration to the public in about a week or so. But I thought, you know what? If the gentlemen have this kind of amazing time in about 3 or 4 hours, what would it be to have 3.5 days
Mm.
to rest, to have a vacation on your own, to connect, to work on building an empire, your own self-care. So anyway, so I'm excited to do that. And Chris, guess what? I wasn't even planning to do this, but because of the
What you got?
reaction and everything from Saturday and men who registered and weren't able to make it, slide in my DMs. There will be another Candid Conversations in Dallas. So we're going to
Come
do another one
on.
in January. I'm
Yes.
not announcing the date yet. We're going to do another one. And then
Come
it looks
on.
like we may be taking it to different cities. So I'm
Please
looking
do.
to take it to Atlanta. I'm looking to take it to
Yes.
Houston. There are 2 other cities that are in the works. So we may be doing a Candid Conversations tour. Okay. Like,
Y'all better make it there. Y'all
but
better make it there. Tell somebody. I'm telling you. Tell somebody. Get there.
tell somebody. We'll announce all that later. So anyway, we're going to go. But Chris, I want to ask you this. What is something that you want to encourage a gentleman who may be watching this, who has just been going through something hard? Nobody knows. Talk to him.
Oh man. Well, brother, I want you to know that you're not the only one. I know it might feel that way. The weight is heavy, family or bills or career and future. You feel like you need to start a business. You feel like you need to buy some NFTs or something. You feel like you got to change the world in a short period of time and you got stresses that are on you. I get it. You're not the only one. I'm going through my own stresses, and millions of men around the world are going through it as well. So you're not by yourself. And I want you to know um, the answer to the question of how long is it going to be, and it's as long as it takes, brother. As long as it takes. Don't you give up. Don't you give in. Don't you take your hands off the wheel unless the Lord is taking that wheel. Don't you take your hands off. I want you to keep going because it is there. It's it's coming. It is coming. But if you stop, then you guarantee that you don't get to touch that place. You go as long as it takes. And I want you to take your time to breathe, take your time to rest, try to take care of yourself in the process because that's what's going to keep you going and that's what's going to make you healthy and make it all worth it. If you can actually be there to experience it, you're alive for it. Um, just keep going though. Keep going. Keep going. As long as it takes. You're not alone. We're going to. When you take that step, just know I'm right there with you. I'm telling you from real life. I got a wife of 11 years, 5 sons, multiple things I got my hands in right now. When you take that step that's tough, just know Chris Edwards is taking that same step and we are moving together. I'm going to keep going and I want you to keep going too. Love you, man.
And with that, y'all have the Thursday that you need and lean into any words that Krista shared that resonated with you. And this will be posted for replay. So if you need to fast forward and listen to those last couple minutes again to be affirmed in that way, then listen to it again. Chris, thank you so much for hanging out. Y'all, until
My
next
pleasure.
time, deuces.